welcome to an exclusive conversation with the Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Costa, who is in India on an official visit. He is an overseas citizen of India, he is of Goan descent and has been awarded the Prasar Bharati Samman for being the first Western Indian origin head of government. Welcome, Mr. Costa, to Doordarshan News. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
You are in India in what is your first bilateral visit outside Europe since your re-election. Why did you choose India? Was it a natural choice?
Bom, eu vim à reunião do Comitê Nacional para a celebração dos 150 anos de Gandhi e também para preparar a visita do nosso Presidente da República, que terá lugar no próximo mês de fevereiro.
I have come to, have been invited for the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. I've come to attend that and also to prepare the visit of our President to India.
Oh, absolutely. He's likely to come to India in February 2020. 150th birth anniversary celebrations of Mahatma Gandhi are being celebrated in India as well as the whole world. You referred to that. You're a member of the organizing committee of the celebrations. You've also authored a text for an anthology on Gandhi. What are your impressions of Mahatma Gandhi?
Bom, é uma grande figura do século XX e uma grande referência global. E o seu pensamento continua tão atual como nunca e muito inspirador para que o mundo possa enfrentar os grandes desafios globais que tem pela frente, as alterações climáticas, a transição para a sociedade digital, o combate às desigualdades. O seu pensamento é mais atual do que nunca.
He's a grand figure of the 20th century and he's a grand figure for all the world, and in different matters we look up to him for climatic changes, for inequalities and all other matters as well.
In Portugal, there was an organization of an LED projection of Mahatma Gandhi's messages as well as images as a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi on his 150th birth anniversary. What does the Mahatma mean to the Portuguese?
Bom, creio que é uma mensagem global que também nos diz respeito. Tivemos várias celebrações em várias cidades. A embaixadora da Índia em Portugal foi particularmente ativa na mobilização do conjunto da sociedade portuguesa para a celebração desta grande personalidade indiana, mas que está no coração de todos nós.
There were grand celebrations in Portugal. There were various celebrations. The Indian ambassador in Portugal was very active, and a lot of celebrations happened jointly with Portugal and India.
You had earned the sobriquet of Gandhi of Lisbon when you were the mayor of Lisbon, because you had totally turned around what was a criminal-infested neighborhood. Do you practice Gandhian principles in the course of your life and work?
Bom, há princípios que todos devemos procurar implementar e, de facto, a gestão de uma cidade, em particular, exige uma visão inclusiva e de respeito pela diferença e pelo princípio da tolerância. É assim que construímos cidades que são multiculturais, multirreligiosas e onde o diálogo e a tolerância prevalecem sobre o conflito. Acho que foi isso que conseguimos num bairro muito difícil da cidade de Lisboa e onde tiveram a gentileza de me dar com bastante exagero a título de Gandhi de Lisboa.
So there are principles we implement to make cities which are win over conflict, different type of conflict, and we create tolerance and relationships to win over conflict to create these peaceful cities.
So you walk down the path shown by Mahatma Gandhi in your real life as well. That means, well, having said that, we are seeing an upswing in India-Portugal ties in recent times. What do you think has been achieved as a result of this renewed momentum that we are seeing in ties? According to you, where do India-Portugal ties stand as of today?
Bom, nos últimos anos as relações económicas têm aumentado. Há uma maior presença de empresas portuguesas na Índia e de empresas indianas em Portugal e julgo que nos próximos anos temos margem para um grande desenvolvimento dessas relações, designadamente na cooperação entre universidades, em áreas novas como a indústria automóvel, e em parcerias que temos vindo a estabelecer, quer no domínio das indústrias de defesa, quer designadamente na política do espaço.
So there have been, economic relationships have improved a lot in coming times, and there are going to be together the partnerships in various areas, starting by defense, in space and in different areas, universities also.
Okay, so you are pointing to newer areas of cooperation, but we've also seen in the recent past, for instance in 2017, when you had come over also in 2017 after 6 months when Prime Minister had visited Portugal, there were a number of MOUs that were signed, and there were signs of greater cooperation in newer areas of cooperation like water management, waste management, science and technology, defense, youth exchanges, culture, etc. How significant are these newer areas of cooperation? Have we been able to make any breakthrough there?
Bom, a Índia e Portugal tiveram muitos anos sem relações diplomáticas e depois tiveram muitos anos com relações diplomáticas que não se traduziram em nada de concreto. Acho que a visita de 2017 foi um ponto de viragem em que começámos a concretizar as relações que tínhamos restabelecido. Há contratos assinados precisamente já no domínio das águas, há a presença importante de empresas portuguesas, designadamente no equipamento dos aeroportos indianos. Há novas empresas indianas como a Saatchi, que é uma grande produtora de peças de automóveis instaladas em Portugal e, portanto, nestes 2 anos, acho que avançámos mais do que tínhamos avançado nos 40 anos anteriores.
There were many years of diplomatic relations between India and Portugal, but these were not concretized into economic relationships. After the visit of 2017, many contracts were signed, MOUs were signed in areas of water, in areas of equipment at the airports by Portuguese companies. New Indian companies have also come up like Saatchi in Portugal, and the relationships have improved a lot towards this joint economic partnership between India and Portugal.
It's interesting that you say that, because while on the one hand we are seeing an upswing in India-EU trade, and we're also seeing an upswing in the last decade in investment flows from EU to India, on the other hand we are seeing that the FTA negotiations between India and the EU have hit a log jam. Do you support a free trade agreement between India and the European Union?
Eu acho que a Índia e a União Europeia têm de reforçar a sua relação. No conjunto, são os 2 maiores blocos democráticos à escala global e têm de afirmar a sua capacidade de liderança nesta época de transição climática, de transição digital e de luta contra as desigualdades. E espero que, desde a parceria estratégica, um acordo de livre comércio, um acordo de proteção de investimentos, seja possível avançar nas relações entre Portugal, entre a União Europeia e a Índia. A sociedade global precisa de regulação global e, por isso, a celebração desses contratos de comércio livre entre a Índia e a União Europeia são fundamentais para ajudar a regular as nossas relações à escala global.
So India and Europe have to reinforce their relationships. There are 2 big blocs at a global level to define various climatic changes. So there is a free trade agreement, and this is the cornerstone of India, Portugal and EU relationship. And the global FTA has to be regulated, and it is fundamental for these relationships.
India is expanding its outreach to Europe like never before. It was in 2000 when Portugal was the EU president that the first ever India-EU summit was held in Portugal. What role can Portugal play in taking India-EU ties forward?
Bom, a Índia sabe que pode contar sempre com Portugal para sermos embaixadores da Índia junto da União Europeia e para procurar encontrar pontes entre a União Europeia e a Índia. E estamos a ser bastante ativos para permitir que as cimeiras entre a União Europeia e a Índia retomem a sua normalidade, visto que há muitos anos que não tem lugar.
India can count with Portugal. Portugal is the ambassador of India with European Union, and there is various relationships between India and Portugal, and these EU-India summits will retake their importance and take place more regularly, since they have not taken place for some time now.
India is intensifying its relationship with the Portuguese-speaking countries like Mozambique and Brazil. How can India and Portugal work together in these countries?
Bom, podemos trabalhar quer em relações triangulares, por exemplo, no domínio da indústria aeronáutica há projetos para haver uma triangulação entre o Brasil, Portugal e a Índia, e hoje o Primeiro-Ministro Modi anunciou que a Índia vai pedir a adesão como observador à comunidade dos países de língua portuguesa, o que é uma grande notícia e um grande sinal político da vontade da Índia de estreitar as relações com o conjunto destes países.
So the relations, there can be triangular relations between Portuguese-speaking countries, Portugal and India in various areas. For example, aeronautical industry, Brazil, Portugal and India have a relationship, and today Prime Minister Modi has announced that India will be the observer in the Portuguese speaking countries.
So that's an interesting announcement. Besides that, there is a strong association that you personally have with Goa. Tell us about your Goa Connect, because your father grew up here, your grandfather was born here, and when you came to India last time around in January 2017, you visited your ancestral home as well. Tell us about your Goa Connect.
Bom, é uma relação afetiva que vem do meu pai e do facto de ainda hoje ter uma prima e uma tia que vivem em Goa, e de ser uma relação que naturalmente marcou a minha formação, marca a minha forma de ser, e acho que sou, digamos, acaba por ser um produto desse encontro de culturas que Portugal e a Índia estabeleceram em Goa.
This is a very real relationship of from my father's side. Till now I have my auntie and my cousin in Goa. This relationship with India and Portugal has marked my education. It has made me what I am, and I am a product of this relationship.
Are you still fondly called Babush there, which is a Konkani term meant for endearment, which really means a young one who is quite loved?
Sim, em família é como me chamam, Babush.
Yes, my family calls me Babush.
Let's explore your India connection further, because when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Lisbon, he said that you represent the best of Indian diaspora across the world. You've also been conferred with the Prasar Bharati Samman. What does your association with India mean to you?
Bom, o Primeiro-Ministro Modi foi muito simpático. A diáspora indiana tem figuras extraordinárias em todo o mundo. Eu acho que foi importante eu ter sido a primeira pessoa a ser Primeiro-Ministro de um país da União Europeia com origem indiana. Hoje já o meu colega irlandês também é, e é uma nova tendência que se está a criar na União Europeia. Mas eu espero que essa relação pessoal seja sobretudo um contributo para que Portugal e a Índia possam estabelecer relações que estejam para além desta dimensão pessoal, visto que os políticos são sempre passageiros, mas os países são permanentes e as relações têm que ser duradouras e durar para além de todos nós. Um contributo que eu gostaria de dar era que consolidarmos essas relações para muitos e muitos séculos.
PM Modi has been very nice. Indians have done very well all over the world and are in important positions. It is right that I am the first person in the European Union, but now my colleague is also there. This relation must contribute from Ireland is also there. This relation must contribute towards the betterment of relationships between the two countries. Politicians will come and go, but the countries are permanent, and I hope my contribution can consolidate this relationship between India and Portugal.
You are a person of Indian origin, and like you, there are over 70,000 persons of Indian origin in Portugal. There are more than 7,000 Indian nationals who live in Portugal. How do you see their contribution in the development of Portugal?
É uma contribuição muito importante. Felizmente é uma comunidade muitíssimo bem integrada. Muita parte dessa comunidade começou por partir da Índia para Moçambique e depois de Moçambique para Portugal. Outros foram diretamente para Portugal, e mais recentemente tem havido uma comunidade digamos, tem havido um crescimento muito significativo de pessoas que não vêm nem para Moçambique, nem partem de Goa, mas vêm de outras regiões da Índia, designadamente do Gujarat, que tem sido um dos grandes fontes de emissão de imigrantes para Portugal, onde têm estado muito bem integrados.
So the Indian community is very well integrated in Portugal. Mostly they initially came from India to Mozambique and then to Portugal, but there has recently been a large growth of people coming from India, not only from Mozambique and Portugal, but also from various other regions of India like Gujarat. That has been a source of great development and created a lot of innovation, and are well integrated in Portugal.
And you have a golden visa scheme as well for Indian businessmen?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
And how many are available?
We have now the golden visa for investors, but we have also tech visas for people with high-skilled people who want to work in Portugal or develop in Portugal projects on research. And the startup visa also for young people who want to invest and create and develop their startup in the European Union from Portugal.
Does that facilitate them a big deal?
Yes, yes, and I hope that that this kind of openness of our society could be a great contribution to strengthen our relationship, because more important than the political relations is the business to business, the people to people relation, and our hope is to strengthen all kinds of these relations.
We'll explore that people-to-people relationship that you spoke about a little later, but before that, wanted to know your views on counter-terrorism, considering that India has been a victim of cross-border terrorism for decades. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for concerted global action against terrorism. He has called for a global conference to deal with this issue. Where do you stand on India's position that entities or countries that support terrorism in any form should be exposed and acted against?
Well, terrorism is a global threat, and the global threat needs a global answer. That's why we need a great alliance, a global alliance against terrorism.
So you are calling for a global alliance against terrorism. But where do you stand on India's position that any entity that supports, abets, finances, sponsors terrorism in any form or trains terrorists should be acted against?
Yes, of course. We need to, is a global fight, because the threat is not specifically against India or against United States or against England or against Portugal. It's a global threat, and all the countries, all the democratic countries need to cooperate and strengthen their relations on judiciary, police, penal cooperation to fight terrorism.
India is at the forefront of the fight against climate change. India has come up with initiatives like the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. How do you see India's leadership on the issue of climate change?
Well, this is a common challenge, and we need, all of us, make our best to achieve the goals of the Paris Treaty and go ahead, because the science tells us that is not enough, our goals on the Paris Agreement. Then is not, we don't have time to waste. We need to put all our effort to be, all of us, front runners in this fight against climate change.
Portugal has firmly backed India's membership, which is permanent in nature, in the UNSC. Is there any joint strategy that a country like Portugal is working with, say, India or other BRICS countries, barring of course China, which is already a permanent member, towards achieving this goal?
Well, the world have changed a lot since 1945. Then we need to have United Nations and Security Council more representative than the world of the 21st century. And in this world, India has a central role.
How do you see the fact that India has become a member of most of the export control regimes except the nuclear suppliers group? Do you back India's candidature in the NSG?
Well, we need to have a control of nuclear power. And it's very important that all the countries who have access to nuclear power to accept a global control. Is an opportunity, but a great risk then for all the humanity. And we need to share the control to be safe for everybody.
How do you see India's decision to partially abrogate Article 370? India says with this partial abrogation, now India has one constitution for the whole of its geography.
Well, I don't speak about internal questions of any country, namely about India internal questions.
Okay. In 2016, there was a center that was set up specially dedicated to the study of India in Portugal. How popular is Indian music, art, culture, yoga, Indian movies, Hindi as a language in a country like Portugal?
well, the language is not so such popular, but the music and the movies are increasing now in Portugal, and especially the yoga became one of the most, there are more and more interest to know and practice yoga.
Cultural exchanges is also one of the newer areas of cooperation. Where do you see the India-Portugal relationship going in terms of people-to-people exchanges and greater cultural exchanges between India and Portugal?
Well, it is with such an opportunities, then I still not happy with the level we have achieved, because we have all the conditions to do more, and we should do more.
You're an avid fan of Benfica, which is a Lisbon-based
Yes.
football team. So what do you do at leisure? Do you follow soccer?
No. I'm just I just watch the football.
Oh, you watch football, fair
No,
enough.
no, I don't play.
And you also do jigsaw puzzles, don't you?
Yes, jigsaw puzzles. Yes, I'm a fan,
Oh, absolutely.
and I practice.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Mr. Costa,
Okay.
speaking to you.
Yes, I know. I am speaking English. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.